Ask anyone in your football group chat what they know about Korean football, and the inevitable Park Ji-sung and Son Heung-Min replies will flood in. The more cultured fan may know the name of the odd team. FC Seoul perhaps, a financial powerhouse from the nation's capital. But dig a little deeper and you'll soon come across the name Jeonbuk Motors, who are actually the country's most successful club. But how? Today we're discussing the impressive rise of Jeonbuk, so stay with us. First and foremost though, let's take a look at the K-League in general. It may surprise some football fans to learn that Korea's Premier League football, the K-League, is only 40 years old. Founded in 1983, the league was originally known as the Korean Super League, but was renamed a few years later to the Korean Professional Football League. Back in those days, the league only consisted of 5 initial member clubs, including the fantastically named Hallelujah FC, who were also, incidentally, the league's first ever winners. The other teams who made up the league were Yukon Elephants, Daewoo Royals, Kookmin Bank, and Pohang Steelers. The latter, Pohang, are the only teams still in existence in their original form, with Kookmin and Hallelujah having wound up completely, and Daewoo and Yukon evolving into Busanai Park and Jeju United respectively. The league went through another name change in 1998, to its current iteration of the much more simple K-League, now being split over 2 divisions, K-League 1 and K-League 2. The 2 divisions now comprise of 25 teams, which is a marked increase on the original 5 teams from those early days. Jeonbuk Motors, or Wansan Pumas as they were initially known, joined the league back in 1993 and were actually the first team in K-League history to be named after the region from where they play their home games. And since those early days, it is safe to say the team from the unfashionable southwest region of the Korean peninsula have far outperformed their rivals from the much more affluent regions of Gyeonggi-do and Gyeonggi-sangbuk-do, or Seoul and Busan to you and me. To really understand Jeonbuk, we need to look at its location in Korea. Its testament to the club and everyone connected to it is that they've managed to be so successful since their formation, especially when you take into account where the club is located within South Korea. Hailing from the city of Jeonju, Jeollabuk-do, Jeonbuk Motors have had to do things the hard way over the course of their existence. The city is located in the southwest of the country, about halfway between Daejeon and Gwangju. And similar to England's north, the south of South Korea is often neglected by the government and regularly suffers from a lack of investment. Their location in the relatively rural southwest has meant that they have often had to fend for themselves, not just in the footballing scene, but in a more general community sense. As so often happens in situations such as this, an attitude of us against the world has built up, and the people of Jeonju and their football team, Jeonbuk Motors, are one of the best examples of this in a sporting sense. Away teams regularly buckle when having to travel to Jeonju's World Cup Stadium, a stadium specifically designed for the World Cup in 2002, which hosted 3 games during that particular tournament. For the European fan, Jeonju might be best compared with somewhere like Napoli or maybe even as bad as Stoke on a Tuesday night. The sort of place where no away team fancies going, ever. Let's take a look at their accomplishments then. Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors FC, to give them their full and proper title, are Korea's most successful club, but it wasn't always that way. In the first 15 or so years of their existence, the team struggled to make an impact at home and abroad. But it turns out they were simply busy laying the foundations for what would come over the next 15 years. They won the Korea FA Cup 3 times in the 2000s, and as such were widely regarded as a cup team, similar to how people viewed Chelsea before Roman Abramovich rocked up. After their FA Cup win in 2005, Jeonbuk entered the Asian Champions League the following season, and upset the apple cart completely by winning the whole tournament outright with a 3-2 aggregate win over Syria's Al-Kamara in Homs, Syria. This proved to be the catalyst for a prolonged period of success for the unfashionable team from Korea's southwest, and in 2009, their inaugural domestic league title finally arrived. Over the next 14 seasons, Jeonbuk won the K-League on no fewer than 9 occasions, becoming the most successful Korean team of all time in the process. Another Champions League win followed in 2016, and it could have been even better but for a loss on penalties to Qatar Al Sadd in 2011. There are only 2 clubs in Asia who have more ACL titles than Jeonbuk, one of whom is Pohang Steelers, Jeonbuk's K-League rivals, and the other being Al Hilal of Saudi Arabia, with 3 and 4 titles respectively. We're talking ownership next. Jeonbuk Motors are actually owned by global motor juggernaut Hyundai. The company acquired a 15% stake in the team back in 2000, but took over sole ownership in 2004 with a 100% acquisition. Of course, being such a world-renowned powerhouse had its perks for the club, who benefited from increased investment not only on the pitch, but off it as well. Hyundai decided to heavily invest in the infrastructure of the team, and it is widely accepted that the facilities at Jeonbuk are some of the best, not just in Korea, but Asia in general. They also have a very strong scouting network, which allows them to bring some of the best talent Korea has to offer. The ownership are highly regarded in the sense that they allow the management team to get on with their jobs and do not interfere with the day-to-day footballing issues, something which a team like Chelsea could certainly benefit from. But simply having good ownership doesn't guarantee success. So how did they become so dominant? Stay with us to find out. In 2005, Jeonbuk was simply seen as also-rans in the K-League. That all changed in July of that year with the appointment of Kang-Hee. Choi spent his entire playing career in South Korea, but always knew he wanted to go into management after his playing days were over. Once that day finally arrived, following an argument with his then boss Cha-bom-kun, Choi decided to head over to Germany to study coaching. This turned out to be an inspired decision, as he learned about modern training methods which hadn't yet been implemented on the Korean peninsula. Having spent some time in Europe learning his craft, Choi returned to his native Korea in 1996 and took the assistant manager role at Suwon Samsung Blue Wings. Of course, this coincided with a success-filled period for Suwon, who won 2 league titles, as well as the Asian Champions League in 2001, and again a year later, although Choi had since left to work in the national team setup. In 2005, Jeonbuk Motors decided Choi was their man and installed him as head coach. Choi's modern forward-thinking tactics were a breath of fresh air for the Jeonbuk fans, and he led the team to the Korean FA Cup in his first season. 2 league titles would follow in 2009 and 2011, but unfortunately for fans of the club, Choi crumbled to public pressure and took the job of national team coach in 2011. It wouldn't last too long, however, and in 2013, he returned for his second spell in charge of Jeonju. And just like his first stint, his second was just as successful, as he brought home another 4 titles for the loyal Mad Green Boys, Jeonbuk's feared supporters club. Choi left Jeonbuk at the end of the 2018 season to take his expertise to the expanding Chinese Super League. So, what happened next? Well, as we've seen many times before, once someone like Choi leaves a club after a prolonged period of success, there is often somewhat of a vacuum. I mean, just look at what Manchester United have been through, having failed to win a league title over the past 10 years since Alex Ferguson left. However, Jeonbuk Motors didn't miss a beat. Choi was succeeded by Portuguese Jose Morais, who had spent time as an assistant manager at some of Europe's biggest clubs, including Inter Milan and Real Madrid. Morais continues the good times in Jeonju, with a pair of back-to-back league title wins, as well as the KFA Cup in 2020. These days, Jeonbuk are managed by their former centre-back, Sang-Sik, who has again carried on the winning ways with a league title in 2021 and an FA Cup win last year. We can't discuss Jeonbuk without mentioning one of their darker days, however. Of course, Jeonbuk are the most successful club in Korea, but we wouldn't be doing you all justice if we simply brushed over one of the most egregious incidents in the K-League history. Back in 2017, the club were kicked out of the Asian Champions League after a 2013 bribery scandal was exposed. This meant that they were unable to defend their ACL title. The club were also docked 9 points and fined 100 million KRW, which amounts to about £60,000. It was found that a club scout had paid referees off in exchange for favourable decisions on the pitch in 2013, with the scout in question having paid 2 referees a total of 5 million Korean won, 3 payments of 1 million to one and 2 to another. The referee were banned and the scout in question handed a 6-month suspended jail term, a dark stain on the record of Korea's most successful club. So, what does the future hold? Well, Jeonbuk Motors are showing no signs of slowing down anytime soon. Although they haven't enjoyed the best start to this season, they are still regarded as one of the biggest fixtures in the calendar for the other Korean teams. Unfortunately, they've just been eliminated from the ACL at the semi-final stage. But the fact that they're still appearing in the latter stages of that tournament prove that they're still a major force to be reckoned with in Asia. As usual, thanks for tuning in today, and remember to like, share and subscribe. And why not let us know who your Asian team is in the comments below. Bye guys!